Hello everybody, I'm Dhaman Mehta and thank you for once again joining me on my journey as I go through my favorites list on fanfiction.net. Let's just jump into these stories right here. We got another 7 for you. This one, starting with Horizons by Forest Whisperer 3, which is a Final Fantasy VII self-insert fic where the main character gets sent to Nibelheim when Cloud is basically a baby and becomes his older sister. And I really love this fic. The main character, his name is Cass. I'm seeing her interact with baby Cloud is wonderful, and her interactions with the town are really great. She doesn't become like a super OP character and instead leans into the knowledge that she already had to grow and using her strength. I just found that to be really engaging. The author basically just finished the prologue arc and started actually going into an arc where she leaves Nibelheim. And they did update it like at the beginning of the year, so there's hope that they're still going on. But even still, like I just super enjoyed all the character interactions. So even just seeing an SI deal with like young Cloud and Tifa, I still recommend like checking this out and like seeing what's a great start to a story that still has chances to grow and expand even further. I like this a lot. It's staying on my list. Number 2 is An Incomplete Potter Collection by Racke. And like similar to what I said in the last video where he did this, and I'm pretty sure another story on this video itself, this is a collection of stories and ideas, this time based on Harry Potter, where he just never finish it. There's not much to say. I've come across many of these again and again, and the rule of thumb has always been, do I like more of these ideas individually than I don't? And here it's definitely yes. And what's also, again, instead of this, the reason why I like it more than most is like it's not just scenes or story prompts to start a story. It's basically a smattering of scenes that would be throughout like the story, so you get a feel for it in a very jump-cutted sense that I really do enjoy. Like the Ashikabi Harry series in this which is him being Harry, usually a very young Harry, being bonded with different Sekirei and having their stories told that way is super entertaining, one of my favorites. But the other stuff and all, because I love this author, is they're all really entertaining. I like this stuff a lot, and if you want some quick like Harry Potter fun, I'd say give these a look, and it's going to stay on my list. Moving on, we now have Anti-Shadow Suppression Weapon M1N470 by KingofZeroX. And this is a Persona 3 fic that starts kind of odd, or just like, if you know Persona 3, the starting, like basically the inciting incident of this Persona 3 is the main character's family basically dies in a car crash where a robot was fighting the main enemy, Shadows. And here, during that incident, somehow the robot turns into a human and the human becomes a robot. And then it jumps to the start of the game where we go through, the main story, like with Aigis replacing the main character role and Minato replacing Aigis' role, with the difference being Minato was never like shut down throughout the in-between time, so he's built all these relations and is still active during those 10 years, which has minor differences, but also does come with new characters being introduced and stuff like that. This story only got about halfway through the game before the author decided to attempt a rewrite, and that rewrite didn't get anywhere as far as this story. But the character interactions here are really enjoyable, and I found this to be a nice, relaxing, fun read. Like putting on a sitcom in the background that you don't have to think too much and you could just passively enjoy. That's what I like, comfort fix, and it's going to stay on my list. Next is Hero Harry by Lord's Fire. And this is a sequel to Brutal Harry, which is a story that was on my list and it still is, where Harry was basically kind of like emotionally deadened, and that story was him sort of relearning how to be human while also being a brutal pragmatist and dealing with the Death Eater threat and stuff like that in a much more like violent manner. So that one ended basically at the end of end of Harry's 4th year, and here there's a time jump, which isn't really clarified exactly how long, and then the story just moves at a pretty brisk pace. It's essentially 3 or 4 big fights with small sections of downtime in between, and like I said, there's the time jump that gets mentioned a little, with like some events that happen during that time jump are talked about, but we never go full flashback or anything, so you just have to leave a lot of it to the imagination. You can see the similarities in writing as this one, but with the previous, but this one did not capture my interest as the original, likely because of its shotgun approach to the storytelling, and mainly the just being a collection of action sequences. Like, what I loved about the original story was the character drama and seeing Harry grow as a person, punctuated by intense bits of action. Whereas this story is all action with just maybe a hint or two of emotion and drama. But all on characters that I also don't really connect with or know, that weren't really focused on in the old story. If this has been combined with the original as just like a 1-2 punch, or even more honestly being like, what this feels like is just like an epilogue arc that's not even really an arc, more like just like the epilogue action scene. Like it's like this, it feels like that the previous story did end conclusively enough that it felt like its own a whole piece that could stand by itself, but this one feels like it's basically the first going into like anime kind of thing. Like the first story was a anime season that you could say was complete, and then this story is basically a post-season movie that only makes sense if you watch the season, and is very much focused on like one plot point that they just wanted to add on or like tackle in a different way, and it's mainly action focused. Like that's how it feels like, but it also doesn't have the same it doesn't focus on the things that made me interested in the original story, and it doesn't connect as well. It's fine enough, and like I do think it would have been a great like action heavy plus set piece, like plus extra arc if they added it to the original story, but by itself it feels too disjointed and kind of confusing. It's not going to stay on my list. Moving on, we go to An Opportunity of Fate by PML7, and this is a Fate Stay Night fic that's not quite time travel. What it's more is basically it's focused on Counter Guardian Emiya and Alea, the will of humanity, like nudging some stuff. So it goes back to the past when they're kids, like slightly after the end of the Fourth Grail War, and then it's them like nudging all of the main characters in different ways to supposedly make them develop differently and possibly end stuff before things could actually get that bad, and ends up causing a whole bunch more issues. The changes here, but because of the nature of what this is, there's a decent amount of change happening, like to their backstories. Like a lot of different things happen. New characters become way more important than they ever were in the original story. And when it finally gets to the Grail War, there's a huge swapping of servants, classes, and even masters. And the way the Grail War is actually fought feels a lot more like the Fourth Grail War than how the Fifth Grail War ever actually played out in canon, where there's a lot more of fighting and going after masters and just like a lot of more running battles and stuff, instead of just the real, like, honestly passive approach that the characters went through in the the fifth Grail War, at least through in the main storyline. The character and drama stuff is really well written, and the characters are really fleshed out, that you'll really get sucked in, even though the story is incomplete, but there's still a lot here to enjoy. It's going to stay on my list. Alright. Second to last, we have Fate Stay Unfinished by Racke. And again, like the Incomplete Potter collection, this is a collection of incomplete stories that he made, this time based on Fate Stay Night. And again, I like this author. I love this author. I like this guy's ideas. The pieces here are all interesting and like a mix of serious and fun. I would definitely revisit this stuff again, and it's going to stay on my list. Alright, and last for this video is Scars by Dizzily Puzzled. This is a Danny Phantom story where Danny basically gets bullied out of school by Mr. Lancer and arranges a small protest. It's fine enough, but I don't know, it didn't hit emotionally as much on this reread as it did the first time I read it. The backstory of what is happening to Danny and how like the bullying has gone out of control seemed a little far-fetched, which I know is kind of ridiculous considering I read Worm, and the Worm fan fiction and stuff is probably like the biggest thing I'm reading right now, and that is based on way worse bullying than anything that's in here. But I don't know, like the actual meat of this story like seemed far-fetched but also mundane, and I can't really figure out exactly why it didn't connect with me this time as opposed to the first time I read it, and why I put it on my list. And I put it on my list in like 2014, which is after I graduated college, so it wasn't because I was a student or anything, so I don't know why. I think it's a good read, decently. Like it gives an idea of like the downtrodden trying to rise up, or like trying to at least showcase their pain in a normal way, and like just trying to give themselves like grit. But it's not one that I would ever come back to, so I'd say give it a look and give it a read, but you probably won't ever look at this again, so it's not going to stay on my list. And that's it for this video. Now we've read fanfiction status. I have now read 794 stories, and 382 of them staying on my list. So there we go. Like I'm under 500. Like there's less than 500 stories left to go. I think I'm like 480 or 460 left, but I'm working. I know, especially it's ridiculous considering I had the 3-year anniversary and then almost a month later that I'm posting these videos, these two. I'm not even going to try to say I'm going to be doing any of these faster or not. They'll come out when they come out. I'm just going to try, like, I'm just hoping this doesn't take me another 3 years. I want to try and get it done in one. One's not going to be likely, but maybe 2. But yeah, as always, links are in the description. If you liked any of these stories, or by a video, leave a like or a comment calling me an idiot for trash taste or whatever, or anything. But thank you for watching, whether this was your first video, whether this was your 100th. Thank you for looking at this, and I'll see you next time. Take care.